Hello, everyone. We are live yet again, and this is going to be one of my author's chats of the week. And as I wait for everybody to get notified that I'm up and running, I'll also be keeping my eye out for my co host. And then we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between in just a couple minutes. And I have been working really hard because I have sent one manuscript to one of my editors, and I'm about to get back a different manuscript from my second editor. And it's been one of those weeks that I have this lull this week between two big events. And there's just a lot that goes on between gathering and prepping and for conventions, which I've been enjoying, but there's a little bit of work behind the scenes that goes into that prep. Let's see, see if he sends the invite.
All right,
Hello?
all right. Hey,
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Just getting off work, so just relaxing now. How about yourself?
About the same. I mean, this is that wonderful time in the evening where, the main part of the workday is over and it's just nice to
Yes.
relax and chat with other bookish people.
Yes. This is my first time being online with another author, so I'm excited.
Oh, yay, this is great. Well, I will let you know this is very much a casual conversational thing. If people in the comments want to ask a question that's bookish related, we'll answer them. But outside of that, since you are my co-host tonight, I'll let you introduce yourself and what you write, and we'll just go from there.
All right, that works perfect. My name is Maurice Myers. I am a author, poet. So I started out doing poetry,
Ooh.
and then that grew into a fantasy novel. So I've been writing fantasy and poetry simultaneously, and that's just been an interesting experience altogether. Um,
Love
and
that.
I've been writing well, not writing, but I've been published since 2020.
Ooh, very nice, very nice. Okay, let me wrap my head around this. So your poetry inspired your more full-length writing. So what kind of poetry, because there's so many varieties, just like there's so many genres in
Right.
books. I'm not as familiar with all the ins and outs of poetry, but what did you use to write slash currently write?
Okay, so honestly, it started out as like spoken word. So I would get on stage and perform and things like that. That was fun. And then I kind of just used it as a driving point to talk about things that I cared about in society and around and how I felt about life. So how it helped to create a fantasy novel was more so, to be honest, after I put out a poetry book, my grandmother, who I love with all my heart and soul, she after she told me she found the mistake in my book, she said, I found the mistake right here. She says, when are you gonna write a real book? And she meant it with love. I knew what she meant,
Yes.
so I took that and was like, okay, so for my grandmother, I have to write a quote unquote real book.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, what can I do that's fun? And I actually co-wrote this with my writing partner, my bro, my close friend from college. He and I worked on this fantasy novel together from 2016 up until 2023 when we finally released it, the first part. So using the poetry, putting that, my grandmother's beautiful words together, all of that kind of just with a conglomerate to create a fantasy novel.
So, what kind of fantasy novel? Well, tell me a little bit about your novel. What is it about? Who are your characters? What kind of fantasy? Is it
Oh,
urban? High
oh,
fantasy?
I get excited about this. Okay, so it's like afrofuturistic fantasy. All right, so it's called Finders Keepers: The Age of Apophis, and it's about a race of gods called Amoyans who
Mm-hmm.
had their own planet and due to civil war destroyed it. And a couple of gods landed on Earth, and when they got to Earth, they no longer had powers. They created their own little haven beyond the Bermuda Triangle, and after one of the Amoyans took the quest to Ascension and got his powers back, he started teaching other people how to get their powers back, and we started working with humans. Things got a little bit crazy there, so we just closed off behind the Bermuda Triangle. That's why none of us can get there today, if you looked at it. And from there, that quest remained. So for future generations, they all would have to go on the quest to get their powers also. And we are talking about a pair of brothers and a close friend of theirs named Serenity, Kane, Cairo, and Serenity. They are all trying to just deal with family drama and getting their ascension.
That is fantastic. Okay. I love that because there are, I've talked to a number of authors, and there are definitely some that write maybe to market or write because something's trending. Are one of the authors that has such a new take and fresh take on just the concept of, as you were talking about, the gods coming to Earth and interacting with
Mhm.
people, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. I also see some comments already chiming in. One saying, "Why are gods always breaking this stuff than wanting art?" True, true. That does happen a lot. And then
It
another one
does.
says, "I didn't know he wrote. I just thought he was Book Talk's crowned motivational speaker." So you have a
Oh
lot.
man. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I love that. I love
Uh,
that. But yeah,
do you
no, I
mind if
mean,
I ask you about your books?
oh yeah, by all means. I'm also a fantasy author. I write, or I have right now, three different series, and they range from
Okay.
young adult, new adult, to the adult side of things. And my young adult series, I have, it's called the Jed Chronicles. It's set in
Mhm.
a magical multiverse, so it falls into a lot of categories of portal fantasy, noble bride, isekai, and it's kind of being the side of, it's the younger side of YA. There are the vibes of, is this person the chosen one, or are they not? There's lots of quests and
Mhm.
adventures, and it's pretty much, I realized, my love letter to growing up in the '90s. So
Okay.
I have vibes from Yu-Gi-Oh and
Mhm.
Transformers Beast Machines and Dragonheart and all these shows just kind of put together in this magical multiverse. It's been a lot of fun to write, and actually the next one, I'm launching a Kickstarter in a couple weeks for the fifth book of that series. But outside
Okay.
of, sorry, what?
Oh no, I was just happy to hear that. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Thank you. Thank you. My debut series is called the Incarn Saga. There are four books in all. They're a dark fantasy about a kingdom on the verge of war where humans and shapeshifters have to decide if they can put aside their differences in order to fend off a greater threat. That is a complete series. And then my other complete series is a novella series aimed at more mature readers. It is a dark, gritty retelling of Nordic myth. There are 16 novellas in all for that one, and it's a really immersive story throughout all nine realms of Yggdrasil, the World Tree. You get to see all the big characters. Most of the ones you expect, you don't see until the very end, because I start you with some very obscure allure in the Nordic myth before giving you what you want.
Okay, okay. I have a quick question. Like, how do you how do you maintain all those different worlds, you know,
It's
and the
complicated.
real one that we live in? Because that's a lot.
It's complicated. I sometimes wonder if I actually live in reality, or if that's the figment of my imagination and the other stuff is real things. But there's a lot of diagrams, there's a lot of notes and
Okay.
style sheets, and definitely some things where I go cross-eyed and be like, "Who are you? And where did you come from?" It does happen.
Awesome. No problem. Okay, I get it. Because I have the same exact thing with my own, where it's like going in, being immersed in the world for an hour and a half, and then coming back like, oh God, I have to work tomorrow. Okay, let me get back to the real life.
Yes, well, I will have to say I cheat a little bit because I'm fortunate at this moment in time, knock on wood or whatever, I'm a full-time artist and author. So this is my life. Mwahaha.
Lucky.
That's not the case for a lot of people, and I get it. And I totally respect it. I actually respect people who have full-time jobs and, raising kids and have the dogs and have all the hobbies and
Mhm.
still find time to publish, because that's an amazing thing to do. I do see a question popping up, and it's one I definitely love to answer towards the end of this, but I'll answer it right now. And for you too, it's where do we have our books available? So are you wide? Are you exclusive through Amazon? Do you sell direct? Where can people find your book?
Well, right now they're exclusively through Amazon. All of them, the experiment, I keep them close by so that, people can always
I
the
love it.
experiment.
Yes, show the covers.
Finders keepers, the
Love that.
experiment tool. All three of these are on Amazon. You'll be able to get it. My name, Maurice Myers, and you'll be able to find each of these through there directly through. We have hardback for two out of the three.
Mhm.
So those are where you'll be able to find all of my books. Hopefully we'll do more in the future. But for just starting, it was like Amazon is a key. It's a safe net. So.
It is, and that's how I started. I originally, for years and years, since my first book was published in 2016,
Hmm.
was pretty much exclusive through Amazon for a long, long time. And it only was a couple years ago where I started pulling things out of some of those contracts so I could start selling them direct. And only at the beginning of this year was able to put all my ebooks and most of my audiobooks in wide distribution. So you can find them in libraries and Spotify or Barnes and Noble or any, wherever you like to find stuff. But haven't done that for the physical stuff because Amazon is for most authors that first step or maybe the only step because the usability there is friendly for authors, even though there are some routes you could take to make more money, but it's a little bit
Uh-huh.
more work too. I get it. I get it. There's pros and cons of everything.
Right, right, definitely.
So you said you with your first book you were co-writing. How did you like that experience? Because I will admit I've never co-wrote with anybody, but I'm also a control freak.
Yeah, I get it, you know.
I don't know if I could do it justice. So how did you like that experience?
I think honestly, all right, so I love it because I'm writing with my best friend. That's what makes it easier. He and I decided together, back in 2016, it was like, let's make a superhero, story or something. Like we wanted to do a comic book, a cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of things. And it was like we literally, it started as just regular conversations about it, and the more it got created, we got a flow, so it was pretty easy to kind of figure out how each other thought about things, like how we were,
Mm-hmm.
like our imaginations worked. As we started writing, that's when I learned, oh, we don't write the same. This is totally different. Like I
Okay.
I'm dialogue. I'll give you the story. I'll tell you what we're gonna do, and I'm gonna add the things that's gonna happen. I always say Shakespearean because
Mm-hmm.
his descriptions are just so, I just can't write like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so deep and methodical. So us working together in the beginning was definitely a challenge of learning each other. Like, okay, but being friends made it so much easier because we were also roommates at the time too. So we were teachers at the same school. We're roommates. We all coming back to this idea. So whenever we come back to it, we kind of can figure out how to make it work without arguing,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm a control freak. He's a control freak. It doesn't make it
Oh.
it doesn't make it any easier. But I think it's also just having the understanding that we are coming up together to make this story better.
Mm-hmm.
So there are times I have to say things where I'm like, that doesn't fit. I don't think we can do that. Or he may have to say the same to me. And we have to not take it personal, not be so ego driven to be like, well, I want my idea and realistically, we gave ourselves characters. So you can do whatever you want with your character. I can do whatever I want with my
Okay, I was gonna
character.
ask that next. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how it works coming together. Because we tried to make it a story about one guy, and that just didn't work. So that's how we ended up making our own characters. And from there, it's like, okay, if you want to go extreme with your ideas, do it with your character, but
Mm-hmm.
everything else, keep it story based.
Okay, I do think the authors I've talked to who have such success with co-writing, they do find a way where it's maybe one POV is this author and another one is works another, and they kind of figure that out. Plus, it allows you to get in your headspace of whoever you're writing, and
Hmm.
the trick then is how do you kind of let both your stories and both the personas you're building kind of work together for whatever end game you want. So I get
Right.
it. I did see a question for you and was asking about what inspired specifically Finders Keepers.
Oh, well, that's easy. That's like X-Men, Dragon Ball Z, all the
Love
different
it.
anime you could imagine. I wasn't like an anime guy growing up, but I loved anything that had powers, anything with, mythical and things of that nature. So when we said we're going to create something, we watched, I think it was Dragon Ball Z, Naruto,
Mhm.
just a bunch of different animes because I didn't want to be a fraud. Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't want to come into a realm that I felt like I didn't know and I don't have any type of knowledge of it. But I'm just like, hey guys, I'm here. So it took a lot of just a lot of anime and a lot of different cartoons that we just grew up with from the 90s because it's all about the 90s to me. So,
Oh yeah. See, I like that. I like that. And it is fun to figure out where people pull inspirations. And it took me a while because I knew my children's series was created actually from the multiverse. Didn't know the term at the time that my sister and I were developing when we were young, and it was like
mhm.
imaginary play, and of course it built off of that. And looking back, I'm like, oh, that's where I pulled Yu-Gi-Oh. Had this kind of concept where I had these
Hmm.
gladiatorial duels with decks of cards, bringing entities from across the multiverse to clash in battle, and I was like, oh, I see this now. Retrospectively, I get it.
Yep,
But
yep,
it's
yep.
fun. Sometimes I think as authors, you may not even realize where some of your inspirations come until later on. You're like, did I pull that from there? Did
Hmm.
I?
Yep. Yeah. It was a very weird experience when I realized how much I was like creating characters because I watched wrestling. Like I was like
Oh,
learning how to create a character through there and not realizing it's like, okay, I know how to make a bad guy now because this is all you need to do. And it's like, where do you get that from? Like, oh, WWE? Oh, okay. I guess that's where I get it from. So I get it.
it is great. And so let me also ask, because developing your characters, but also the mythos behind. And the mythos, again, I was very fascinated with your gods falling to earth. And I know it resembles some to an extent, but also creating their own, what did you call it? Hideaway beyond the Bermuda Triangle. I think that
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
really neat. So, where did you, or which one of you, maybe it was both of you together, came up with the concept of that history that of your deities in this particular book series?
Okay, so to be completely honest, I don't remember which one of us came
It's
up with
okay.
it. I would venture to say him, but just to make it easier. But truthfully, a lot of the deities and things of that nature that came from just different things growing up. So I grew up around different types of cultures and things
Mm-hmm.
that I've seen. So Santeria is a religion that I got to see growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and I was very intrigued by the cat. I don't want to say the characters, but the people involved in it and taking certain things that it felt like was from my childhood and putting it into this book per se that didn't feel so disrespectful to anyone's personal beliefs. So that definitely was a part of it. I think when we I will give it to us both. When we came up with the Bermuda Triangle, what I can remember most was that there had to be a because it was between the Amazons or behind the Bermuda Triangle. We were done with humans. That is what the
Yes.
idea was. And
Yes.
they didn't want anything to do with them. So coming up with the reason behind the Bermuda Triangle, definitely I'll say that was a collective vision in the end.
I think that is fun. And it is surprising. Recently, I haven't heard a lot of people utilize that in their stories, and I don't know why. It's such a great premise where you can pick, kickstart or create your own, or make these fantastic stories around a concept that loosely we know, but then do we
Mhm.
know?
Right.
I
What do we know about? I can say anything. Who can say you're lying? So
like that. And then it sounds like that this is going to be a series, correct?
correct. Yes. Um. It. If I could, if you indulge me for a quick second,
Of course.
originally this was the book that we created. Okay. And yes, you see the textbook. It wasn't supposed to be so large when we got it, but either way, we created that version of it. And what happened was we didn't like how big it was, so we wanted to make it
Mhm.
smaller. And when we decided to make it smaller, they told us we had too many pages. So it
Hmm.
said, what do we do here? How do we make this work? So we decided to break this one book up
Mhm.
into a trilogy, into three parts because there's so many
Ah,
pages. So yes, this was our first one and our baby. Uh, Finders Keepers, the age of excuse me, yes, the age of Apophis. This one was released on Christmas 2023, and our next one should be released before the summer. The second version of this.
oh, yeah, I'm super excited. That's so much fun. And yes, I do agree. There's a comment from Rebecca in here saying, U.S. fantasy readers don't mind girth. Give us the story. I agree. I like a chunky book. I like some chunky stories. I do.
Okay.
I do. But there is a point when it comes physically for printing, and I've had other author friends have that issue where they wrote a story and it was too many words, and they had to figure out either they cut it down
Mhm.
to print it in more or less a singular volume and figure out how to tweak things, or split it because
Yeah.
there is physically a limit what we're capable of printing.
Yeah.
At least, especially if you're indie authors. Unfortunately, we do have a certain page count. If you hit that, I like to talk. I do like to talk, and so I like to write. On the a decent sized story, and as someone who challenged myself to write a novella series, one of the things I decided, which, and there's pros and cons, was release them independently as ebooks, as novellas. But I didn't want to print them out that way because I didn't want these little thin, wispy spines kind of just on
Uh-huh.
there. So I bundled them in sets of four. So at least you have, a decent size on the
Yeah.
shelf. But it's kind of funny because I have to tell people and explain this whole, well, audiobooks and ebooks you can get independently. If you get them in print, they're in sets of four. But it's because I wanted a book that has some kind of thickness to it.
Oh gosh, and I love that because I honestly I tell like I'm always doing motivational videos and I'm always just trying to explain to people like listen, just do what's working for you because
Yep.
everybody's doing their own thing. Like everybody's doing what works for them. Trust me.
And that's fantastic point because I've been fortunate that now I'm working a lot more conventions in my area and being on different panels and everything. One of the things I love to say is there is no one right way to publish. And so you have to find out what works best for you because the people on either side of you have what works for them doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you and vice versa. So we all have to figure it out. And some people figure out
Exactly.
faster. Some are like me that like stumble like most of the time, but every so often I get
Mhm.
a win.
Right, right.
Win.
It felt amazing to get this giant textbook in the mail, like, oh, so this is what all our hard work turned into, something we're not going to be able to use. Okay, got it. Thank you. That's amazing. So,
Hey, it's definitely a piece that draws a conversation, and you can talk about it. And the another nice thing is when you have a set of three and you have a series, you can rapid release if you have it already kind of prepped, like it sounds like you're doing, which helps you
hmm
keep the readership because when you're releasing a book a year, readers are voracious. And unfortunately, sometimes they go off into a new tangent, a new series after that, and then they sometimes forget to come back. So having
Yes.
some kind of routine or ability to release on a more steady basis can be beneficial. But then again, there's no one right way to publish. So you do
Nope,
what
nope.
works. So let me ask, what you showed three books, and we've been talking about obviously your first release. What are the other two? You said there is one.
Okay, so wait, are we talking about the poetry
Yes, you
books?
showed three books a little bit ago.
Oh yes, oh yes. So these two, the experiment,
Yes.
one and two. So, the experiment, the first experiment I wrote, this is a compilation of my 20s. So, from high school into my 20s, I was
Fun.
just I called it the experiment because I had never written a book before. I didn't know what it was gonna. I'd
Learning.
never put anything on Amazon, so it was like, "Hey guys, this is an experiment. It's not a book; it's an experiment."
I like that.
Um, and as people, yeah, thank you. And as people started to like it, it was like, okay, well, um, fine, let's make that happen. I released it in January 2020. And then in March 2020, the world shut down for COVID. So yeah, that was the end of that little run. And I didn't think about it like in a sense of I could keep promoting it. I thought
Mm-hmm.
it lost its steam, so I was done. There was nothing else I can do. I gotta move on to something else. And honestly, every book I've had four books, three books on it. Each book on it I've always read from that book because it everybody wants me to read from it. So
Oh, I love that.
um now so its sequel, it's Big Brother, um, was released last November 30th for my birthday. Um,
Nice.
my co-writer, my bro Kawan, he and I last year after our book signing, he decided he wanted to release a poetry book for his birthday in August.
Hmm.
Um, so October came and I just had the bright idea. My birthday's next month. I want to do the same thing, so I'm gonna do it. So I spent a month writing all these poems from a place where last year I wasn't working. I left
Mhm.
my job to be a full-time author. That's what I wanted to do.
Wow.
And I was a dark place, when you're not doing the hey Titi, I see my Titi in the comments. When you're not working full time and this is what you're doing and you don't know where the things are coming from, you don't know where your next dollar is coming from, but you still
Mhm.
have to create. It was a hard place to write from, but it helped me to release so much at that time that by the time I finished it and released it, I felt like there wasn't anything I couldn't do, you know?
That.
Um, so yeah, these are the stories behind these poems. This is a lot of my life, and this is a lot of how I viewed life back then.
I love
So
that.
yes.
An evolution of it. And this thing is, in a few years, you may do a part three and see where you are at that point, too. So I like that. Little snippets of you at different points of your life.
Yes, we said it's going to be every year, so I'm supposed to do it again this year. Um, we'll see. TBD. TBD.
Hey, that's a fun challenge, though. I will admit, like, I don't know, I found out certain stories, they just stick with you and you get so passionate about them that they're so quick to be able to put to paper. Other ones, I have written, a few. Other ones, sometimes they're a little bit harder to release and maybe a little bit more feeling of work sometimes trying to get them through, like the one I'm working on right now. But
I know that feeling, trust me.
but it does sound like when it comes to poetry, if you get that spark, you get that spark, which is a lovely thing.
Yeah, I feel like poetry is a bit of a cheat code for me because it's like I can pull from anything and write about it, and turn it into this deep, meaningful thing compared to like creating the finders keepers universe where there's continuity. I have to stay on top
Mhm.
of everything. And does this make sense? And what about your grammar? And it's just a lot more that goes into writing the fantasy novels than it does the poetry, where I have a little bit more freedom.
Yeah. But also, I think if you started with poetry and it's something that you may be a little bit at this point still a little more familiar with, there is something of, if you write something enough or you get used to, an approach, it becomes easier in theory.
True, true. That's what I forgot who said it to. They was like, um, it's easy because you're good at it. That's why. Like it's not easy. You're just good at it. So it's easy to you. And it's like, okay, I'll accept that.
I like that. Now, I will mention that I think, and I've never 100% figured this out, but I'm pretty sure how this works is if you see any comments that I'm not necessarily making note of, feel free to make note of them because depending on who has followed one or both of us or how they're joining in, I may not be seeing all of them. So
Okay,
I
no
just want to make
problem.
sure it doesn't feel like I'm ignoring anybody. I think that's how it
Yeah,
works. I know there's
definitely
certain
not
things.
ignoring you guys at all.
We appreciate everybody that's chiming in. But okay, so with your first book, you have your at least two characters.
Mhm.
Um, who are they? Are they on the God side, human side? Like, who are your two characters?
Okay, so I'll use the cover because it's right here. This is we so it's a POV book and it comes from each person's point of view up here.
Ah, okay.
So we did Kane and Cairo, the two brothers, Serenity, their close friend, and Nebi. This is their mom, Kane and Cairo's mom.
Ah.
So yeah, each point of view is kind of a different aspect. It's the Kane and Cairo represent Kawan and myself. This
Mhm.
would be me if you can't tell. Um, so basically, what's happening is these three are going on their quest. They just came back from training. They've been training for a year. Kane and Cairo are yin and yang. Okay, Kane is
Okay.
the older brother. He is more strategic, methodical. He's very much an introvert, stays to himself. He has a lot of visions, nightmares, things that kind of keep him up at night. He's tapping into a power that he hasn't yet. He's yet to understand, but that's where the story comes in. He has a cane. Who this is? He has the right to being the king in the future, something that he wants nothing to do with.
Hmm.
So this is his story of trying to navigate being in this world where they're telling him what his future is, but he knows what he wants his future to be.
Ooh.
Um, then we have Cairo, his younger brother. This is the charismatic extrovert, always outside, always at a party, always want to be seen and needs attention. And he wants to be the king with all his heart and soul, but they're not going to let him. So he's proving everything in his power that he deserves to be the king.
I like that.
Yes. And so these are our two, our girl Serenity. Because I definitely wanted to make sure that we had characters for everybody because
Hmm.
it's more than just me and him in the world. So
True.
um Serenity, she's not royalty or anything of that nature, but she comes from humble beginnings. She doesn't really have a lot of understanding on her family, her history of her family, but she's going on this quest to get her power to A, help her mother, who is very sickly. She wants to help her sickly mother get better. And B, just kind of rise to the occasion. Her best friend is a princess and she's always in the shadow. So this is her stepping out and becoming who she's meant to be.
I like that.
Yes. And lastly, you'll be Nebby, the mom. She is trying to keep control of everything like a mom usually is. Everyone is running ragged. No one is listening to her. But she has all the answers. So
Hmm.
we're watching her kind of be in the moment of learning what's going on, how she maneuvers it. We kind of wanted her character to symbolize how the life of what it's like for a mother, where if you read her chapters, every time she gets a moment, the moment's taken away by something else she has to do that's just so important. And as two men, obviously we're not mothers. My co-writer, he is a father, but either way with that, it was still something that you have to kind of dig deep into just understanding something that's not you. So we both talked to our mothers and turned this character into a combination of our mothers.
I really like that. And it's
Yes.
always good to have again a wider when you're working with multiple POVs to make sure that the characters do see the world a little differently, are dealing with different aspects of life, points of their life, and it makes it such more of a more dynamic story. So I do like
Oh,
that.
thank
You're
you.
braver than I am. So far, all my series, it will be changing. So far, all my series that I've written, I stick with one POV character, big cast of characters, one
Okay.
POV, because I'm like, do I really want to jump into another character's headspace or back and
I get it. There are days when it's like, well, maybe we don't give him a chapter now. Maybe we just keep going here because you it gets to be a lot on your mental when you have to be the character, if that makes sense, and
Mhm.
switch mindsets of I was just a prince who wants to be the best. And now I'm a girl from a village who has to figure out how to take care of her mom. Like,
Mhm.
it's a lot at times.
It is, and it's fun, but there are those
Mhm.
moments. Have you ever kind of gotten things mixed up where you're like, oh wait, wrong character?
Yes, a lot of time. Especially since it's two of us. So realistically, here, like we'll be on the phone for hours talking about these fake people and just creating and setting things up. And no notes are being taken. We're just going off of vibes and conversations. So then you come back to it later and you're like, now, what did we say we were doing here again? And I forgot. All right. So that happens a lot. Yes.
Yes, and I think that's again goes back to some of the fun challenges of co-writing and how you're approaching storytelling. Because yeah, I have realized that I'll jump to like, ooh, wait, I'm thinking about the scene later on, but I'm writing, some back, so I'll pause and be like, okay, let me make some notes so I don't forget what I'm going for. But then I do need to get back because I don't want to constantly be jumping around, or else the story's never going to be told.
Do you So when you're writing, do you keep the notes up in front of you so that it's like, okay, I know this is supposed to go here and this works where?
I call them I call them my scrolling notes. So whatever chapter I'm working on, there'll be
Okay.
like X amount of space, and then that's when my notes begin. And I do kind of block them in where I think they're coming chronologically. So if I finally get to that point, I'm like, oh, I'm finally at that chapter. Here's that scene I wrote a few weeks ago that kind of goes here, and I'll see if it actually still fits or needs tweaking. Sometimes it fits great. Sometimes I'm like, actually, I went a different route in the in between, but I'm glad I kept that round just in case. But yeah, I keep it on, right below my chapter that I'm working on. And anytime I finish a chapter, copy paste to the new section. I'm like, here's my 15,000 pages already there. Not it's that new chapter. It's just notes for the book or series.
Jeez, I might have to take that for myself, to be completely honest. I need
Go
something
for it.
that's a little more organized. So,
Oh yeah, I'm a note taker. I am a list maker. It's the only way it's going to keep track because I will admit part of the problem of dealing with wide casted characters, even though only maybe one POV here, another POV there, there's still a lot that goes on. And if I don't keep good notes, don't keep good what do you call them, style sheets, that there's terms for things, it's late in the day, the terms and the words and everything is just going
right,
out. I'm a
right.
writer, not a speaker. No. But yes, it's good to keep things as organized as possible for me because if not, nothing again would get done.
I get it. I get it.
So for you, how did you two figure out taking your book and where you were going to break it to make three succinct books and develop your trilogy? And did you have to kind of edit things in order to now make it feel like three books?
Yes, that was one of the, oh God, it was so heartbreaking. All the
I'm
story we
sorry.
had to cut out for page wise. Um, we kind of knew the book itself was broken up already, where it was like
Mm-hmm.
the first 10 chapters are its own section.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and everything after that was kind of like gonna ramp up a bit. It was gonna take it to the next
Mm-hmm.
level. So to me, and I don't think it, I think I just need a better word for it. The first 10 chapters were boring in my mind because we had the other, it was 26. So we had 16 more chapters to lean on to really be, fantasy action packed and all that other stuff. So from there we took the 10 and then we were like, okay, well, we can't end it the way it ended before. Like it has to end a book. There has to be something that makes somebody want to come back. So that was the progress. This is why part two is taking as long as it's taking now, because once you start writing,
Mm-hmm.
um it's kind of hard to go back to old writing when your mind is going forward, like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to what we did in chapter 13 in the book and see if that fits this chapter 13. And it's like, it doesn't fit anything anymore. We need to figure it all out. So that was the hardest part because we were just chopping down, and making
Mm-hmm.
new stories and making sure people's stories still made sense to what we wanted them to do. But once we figured it out, once we figured out the first 10 chapters, it was like, okay, well, you know what? The next one is the fun part already.
Mm-hmm.
So we can kind of just do whatever we want there. And then I learned we couldn't. I learned very quickly we have to stick to what's happening because one thing that I didn't think about, I've never written a sequel before.
Mm-hmm.
Or so realizing that you're not just starting fresh. Everything you say here has to match exactly what they just read in that first book. And if anything is off, it's going to throw off
Mm-hmm.
the whole situation. So you said you have well over three of these. I commend you for that because that is a lot of work.
Well, I mean, also I've been doing this for a number of years, and I inherently am a series writer, so I kind of approached it knowing that I needed to keep track um, with my characters between stories. I've gotten better and have made a lot of adjustments on how I do that because obviously, as certain series expand and grow, I'm not even kidding. For the my YA, the magical multiverse one, I have what they call style sheets. So that's the detailed
Mhm.
information of all the characters, what they look like, their quirks, where they come
Okay.
from, the little background, all that information, and to the place names and locations. But I'm dealing with a magical multiverse, and I'm actually writing the sixth book. The fifth book is the one that's going to be released this year. I have at least 40 pages of notes because I have hundreds of characters. Hundreds of characters throughout the books. And then 5 books, 6 books down, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to go back to this one world and one reality and start going. I'm like, oh, what did this geography look like? What were these people called? What were, and I have to go and scroll through these notes, but I have them. But that's why I make these notes, because I've learned that yes, between books, or even if you're working on a book and then you step away for a little bit and come back and you're like, wait, what happened?
Every time.
What
Every
place is
time.
this? Where are we? How did we get here?
Yep. Yep. That's trying to reread the past. Like I have to read the last 3 pages to remember what I'm writing, so I don't rewrite the same thing. This is it's I don't it feels like because you said you have hundreds of characters. Are you at least like taking some of these characters out? Like are they at least like
A few of them.
going down?
A few of them. Now, with my darker fantasy series, yeah, it was very nice because I would whittle them down, and some whittled them down a lot. But then I'll add a
Okay.
couple new ones. But like, then I'd whittle them down a lot. But yeah, with the younger, the YA series, one of the reasons why there's so many is no, I don't, as I say on here, unalive as many characters, but because there are so many worlds and a lot of the worlds don't really interact with each other, they're kind of like little microcosm bubbles. So it kind of helps
Gotcha.
me
Okay.
keep a little bit more of a track of these are the characters here, these are the characters here, and then this is my core group that kind of floats around, and they're the ones I really have to make sure I know who's where and who knows what.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot more sense because I'm like, hundreds? What do you do? How do they all have stories?
I feel really bad and super impressed with the narrator, who was one woman trying to make all these characters sound like unique people and beings and entities. And I'm
Oh
just like,
God.
kudos to you. I do not have that skill set. This is why I hire professionals, because all the voices would sound like me right here. This is it.
I get,
This is it.
I'm the same.
You got
If
nothing.
you ask my business partner, he'll say that I'm good at that. But I think that if you ask me, it'll all sound exactly the same. Okay. One might be higher than the other, but it's gonna sound exactly. So I get it. Like when let me ask, I do want to ask one thing though. You said like you're putting out your sixth book, right? Or for
I
the series.
Oh, for this, for the YA series, I'm going to be doing the Kickstarter for book 5. I'm
Book
currently
five.
finishing up writing the 6th book of the series. But yeah, I'm releasing the 5th book this year. So that's the one I'm building up the buzz for and starting to do the teaser stuff for.
Okay, that was going to be my question. Which one do you do the buzz in it? That was the question. So yes, that works perfect. Because I always wonder if you're doing two, when you have one complete and you're doing another one, how do you market that out to the world?
I guess it all depends on who you are and how you want to approach it. But yeah, for me, if I'm working within a series, I thankfully don't do what I do. Do what you do. Again,
Okay.
everybody's different. What I do is not necessarily the smart move, but I'm always writing between multiple series also and releasing multiple series simultaneously or different projects. So I do have a little bit of play of teasing different books and different vibes. But when it comes to books within the series, yeah, whatever's the next one to come up with, I can
Mhm.
promote up to that one, and anything all the way up to the first book. But I try not to have two upcoming books at different stages because that might confuse people a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I was like, wow, because you're doing different series and that's so cool though. I give you your props for all of that.
I feel like I am a magpie or something. It's like the shiny new story must go work on this project, and it does keep me entertained, but it also makes things a lot more complicated. Because I
I
was
get it.
talking to another author last week, and he was like, you know, he was saying like how much he wanted to jump on his new series, the new idea, but was advised to stick with one until he was finished. And he was like, I'm so happy I did. And I was like, good for you, because that's probably the smarter route than whatever I do. I just
I get it. I've tried to do what you do, and it does not work for me. Something is going to get left behind because it's just too much to keep my brain. Okay, when I leave one and go to the other, it's like the satisfaction of completing a chapter. If
Mhm.
I got it from one, I'm not gonna go right on something else. I already did my work for the day. So, but I think that if I when I took the time off and just had the time, I probably would have been able to fill it in with different aspects of it because that was the time I learned how to actually put a routine in my day,
Mhm.
without a job telling me how what I'm supposed to do throughout the day, where it was like, okay, well, I can write from 9 to 11. This will be from 10 or 10 to 12. If I start here, then I can go from 2 to 4 on this other one that I should be working on. I just wasn't disciplined enough. And I don't know how you do it as an artist. I think you're great for that.
Yeah, no, I'm a creature of habit. I'm a creature of
Okay.
habit. So if I have a sweet spot and it's between like 10 and like noonish, where that's the time of day for me to write something new. Outside of that, I could be doing other things. I could be working on social media. I could be painting. I can do, editing. But if I'm going to write something new, it has to be in the morning, kind of more or less in that time frame. And if I miss that, then no new words are gonna get done. I just been like, well, that part of the day's ruined.
I
On
gotcha.
to
I
the
gotcha. I get
next.
it. Yep.
Creature of habit.
I get it. Definitely. Thank you, Efra, for that. I truly appreciate that in the comments.
Hey.
Mhm.
But see, I love the fact I love seeing people support people, and I love seeing comments from readers because it's fantastic to know how much people appreciate you and your work. And I see your videos all the time now, and it's just lovely seeing you because you are such a positive and chipper, at least how you present yourself, positive
Yeah.
and chipper person. It's great. And but let me ask you because we're getting to that part of the hour where things are going to speed by, and I know we kind of touched a little earlier on of where you can find your books, but you mentioned obviously you have paperbacks. The two of them are in hardcover. Do you have ebooks? You said
Oh yes, all of them are on ebooks that you can get online, definitely.
I wanted to assume, but I also don't want to assume. So
Oh no,
wanted to make sure
definitely.
that was clear. And then where else can people find and follow you when you're not on Book Talk in the sense of are you on any other socials? Do you have a newsletter? Do you have a website? That kind of thing.
Oh, definitely. So I have a website, iconic ent iconicent.com. Excuse me. So EYECONICENT.com. Again, that's iconic with an EYE in the beginning, ENT.com. You can find me there. Definitely a lot of just see my books, a lot of what we've done from our book signings to the mental health conversations that we've had at through our business. We do a lot as far as also outside of being an author. So I am also a speaker because that's something that I just like my degree is in broadcast journalism. So everything for me was always supposed to be something like this.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't realize that I had to create it for myself. That's what I thought.
Sometimes you have to. Yeah.
I thought I was gonna be able to go to like CNN or NBC or something and like use my degree there, but no, it'll be my website, iconicent.com, and Maurice the author on Instagram and also here. I'm not sure where else I need to be, but if you tell me, I'll be there. I'll sign up today.
I love that. You also been mentioning you do a lot of signings. So do you have any book signings scheduled for the rest of the year so far, or are you holding off until your releases toward the end of the year?
So one is tentative for this summer. I don't have a specific date yet because we are still working with the venue to try to figure out which date works perfect for them. But I know for a fact it'll be up in New Jersey. My book signings have been from Jersey to Delaware to Pennsylvania to New York.
Oh,
So we keep them in that area. But I live in Georgia, so I want to do one in Georgia at least while I
you're
live
my
here, you
neighbor.
know?
I'm in Georgia.
Oh, hey, neighbor. I'm in Decatur. I didn't even
Okay.
know.
Okay, then I can tell you 1,002 conventions to participate in because I was like, I do the Georgia brackets.
Yes, Fred, please tell me all. I will come to all of them. You'll get tired of seeing me them at them. So
Never, never. But no, okay, yes, I see someone excited about your potential New Jersey signing. So that's good to know because um, people, I think, going to the live events and be it your own solo signings or going to a big convention, those are wonderful ways to meet people face to face, to talk with people who are already fans, and make a lot of new ones. So it's
hmm
fantastic. You're already take advantage of that because there are a lot of people who are very hesitant to start doing that. And since you're just such a natural, speaker, as you were saying, it's a great way.
it's fun. I'll be honest though, like I get the fear for so many people because for my broker one and myself, our moms kind of made that happen. They kind of set up we just said we wanted a book signing, and they told us where it was going to be and where we needed to come. That's what happened the first time. So it made it that we kind of knew how to do it. But I understand the hesitancy because if you don't know, if you've never done it and someone doesn't do it for you, you're kind of just like, well, where do I start? What do we do, George? So um I appreciate that. Have you had any out here recently?
Yes, and I'll get to that moment. I do see a question specifically for you asking ballpark times. I'm assuming for the Jersey one, knowing that you don't have the specific date. Do you have kind of in back in your mind of when that was tentatively going to be?
Typically, it'll probably be around maybe 1 to 4-ish or 2 to 5, that kind of area. We try to do them earlier enough in the day, especially when we were doing them in the summer. We wanted you to have enough time to come out to the book signing, have a good time, but still go enjoy your day maybe a little bit later, go to the party or the cookout, something like that.
And specifically for Rebecca, who was asking that question, obviously follow him, and he will probably be talking more about it when it comes
I think
closer to
Rebecca's one of my good friends already, so I think she's my Mets fan friend. So, yeah,
I
so I'll
love it.
definitely be keeping up. But I appreciate that because these are things that come up, and it's like, oh yeah, you got to tell the people this is happening.
Oh yeah, and another question: where in New Jersey do you have it? Do you have it back in? Good question.
Definitely more than likely Hackensack,
So there you
Hackensack, New Jersey, so northern Jersey, if you're in that area.
That's fantastic. I love that. This is exciting. But yes, as far as Georgia goes, and because it would sounds like you're falling in, it's kind of overlapping in that fantasy thing, which is what I kind of more or less specialize in.
Mhm.
Things that you might want to keep in mind. There's the one I just went to, which was actually that perfect kind of sweet spot for a good size con if you're not ready for something overwhelming like Dragon Con. But the one I just
Okay.
went to was called Jordan Con, as in Robert Jordan, the author of Wheel of Time. And so it's very
Okay.
focused on fantasy and sci-fi and lit RPG and kind of in that bubble. And that one brings in about 1,000 people, but attendees are kind of international. So it's a nice one, and it's in the Atlanta area. There is also toward the fall. There's Multiverse Con. That's for, I
Mm.
think, I'm trying to remember if it's like 700 people. And again, it's very friendly. Everybody's welcome kind of event, and anything that's the unusual they invite. Con Possible was one I did earlier this year, and that one's a
Mhm.
little more steampunk forward, but they also have fantasy elements to them. And of course, the big OG one is Dragon Con. So
Yes, I've seen. I moved out here the day Dragon Con happened. So I came out here to see people dressed up as everything under the sun. It was a very interesting experience.
yeah, because that one brings in. I think last year it brought in close to 85,000 people for that. That it is. It's I think 5 hotels area and a huge block of downtown Atlanta. And yeah, that one's the big one. And if you've never attended, it is a lot of fun to attend. It is a lot, but if you're okay with a lot of it is a fun one to attend. And they do everything from just there's what they call tracks, so different themes. So there's one for
Mhm.
writing and authors and publishing and everything like that. There's one that's fantasy. There's one for sci-fi. There's lit RPG, and it goes out bigger and bigger, and there's a lot that goes on. So definitely one to worthwhile to look into. And if you're comfortable to try to start getting into those events, being a panelist is a lot really entertaining if you're comfortable just talking like we're doing now. Being a panelist at cons
Yes.
are a great thing. And of course, if you get the opportunities to sign there, those are another fun things to do too.
Yes, these sound right up my alley. So these we'll be talking more about these things. Trust me.
Good, because I was gonna say I was so hesitant to. I was hesitant, and I think of myself as an extreme extrovert, but to attend at cons because it just sounded like a lot, and I wasn't even sure how to like get into them. And through a book talk friend invited me to
Mhm.
participate in a panel on one, and since then I was like, I'm sold. Tell me more. Who
Right.
do I need to know? Where do I need to follow? And that's it's a great thing.
I can't wait. So then this will be my first one this year. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Good. And this is that perfect time for you, as well as everybody who's listening. Right, if there's any questions you have, this is that perfect time to ask because we're catching up to the end of the hour. And if there's topics you wanted to cover, this is that great time to do that as well.
No, I am very grateful that something like the book talk, because like you stated, like I come on here and just try to be positive because that time when I wasn't working, when I took off to focus on this,
Mm-hmm.
one of the main things that grew was TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I did book signings, I was out there, but for some reason, I got way more like congratulations and applause on getting like 1,000 followers on TikTok than I did for writing the book. So I got to see it was like, okay, this was this time where I'm growing and I'm learning and I'm building my own community in my own little world. And so I appreciate you for acknowledging the world that I'm over here creating, you know?
Well, I think, and this goes for at least this slice of the TikTok community, and my personal experience with the book talk specific
Hmm.
community is it's been such a joy meeting with people because again, there's always going to be a bad apple, but for the most part, people are just so welcoming, so friendly, so willing to talk about their experiences, past information, past knowledge. I have been able to get some amazing opportunities just because I've been meeting people here and it's lovely. And that's why I like doing these chats because it's like my way to give back and say, hey, I want to introduce someone else to you that you may not know. That's really cool and writes amazing things. And we're all going to build our TBRs. So they're just ridiculous. So,
Yes, yes. That works
because why
perfect.
not?
Right, why not?
Now, also, one last question I have for you is once you're done with this trilogy, do you have in the back of mind any ideas at all of what might come next?
Yes, I want out of this trilogy so bad. Like I just it is whole we've been building this since 2016. So we had an original story, and the book that we put out is the prequel to the original story. So I have been so tired of this prequel. I'm ready to get out of it. Like my titi in the comments says, a screenplay that would be nice too if I could do
Mhm.
that. But definitely growing with these characters because I feel like they've grown with me from my 20s into my 30s. I want to do more with them. I want to finally be able to put them on missions by themselves and not have
Mhm.
to X-Men it up the whole time, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Hey, that
yes.
that that'll be a fun point, and because I know having to say goodbye to characters, wrapping up series is always, at least for me, just that weird feeling because you feel that sense of accomplishment, and then you might have to say goodbye. And if you're fortunate and a person who stays in the universe or whatever the world you're building, and maybe
Mhm.
you do the spin-offs or prequel series or et cetera, so on, the things that kind of build off of it, it's a nice way to stay with what you love but can feel that sense of accomplishment. So like it's a great experience. So I
Right.
I'm excited about you. It sounds like you are getting close. You're getting close. I know the second one's
Yes.
coming up, but a lot of it is done. And now it's the tweaking, which the editing process takes far longer than the writing process, kids.
Yes, it does.
But it is there for a reason. It's there to help make sure your book is as best as it can be, and your series is as good as it can get, and then hopefully all the readers become super fans forever in a day.
Hopefully, that's the goal, right? That's the goal.
It's definitely the goal. But I'm going to wrap up before too long because this is that wonderful time where my dogs are going to start dancing out in the hallway and I will have to let them out. But
I got you.
at 8 o'clock time. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It's been lovely actually getting to talk to you, and I'm adding you to the Georgia author list because there are definitely some of us that we do a lot of events together and sometimes even hang out in the real
Okay.
world. Who knew
I'm
that
with
could
that.
happen?
That's my favorite place to be. So you let me know.
And thank you for everybody who's been jumping in and chiming in. And I see the votes on for you between screenplays, cartoons, spin-offs.
Theory.
You're never going to be allowed to like read this book. It sounds like.
It's for life, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. It's my Marvel, and I'll stick with it.
I love that. I love that. But thank you for talking, and thank you for everybody else who's been chiming in. And if you ever want to do another one of these, I obviously do them weekly and schedule them in advance. But I will let you know, and you might see this video if this app is very nice. I'll repurpose it on my YouTube channel and put all your contact information down below.
Thank you so much, man. This was awesome. Can't wait to do it again.
Thank you, and I'll let you go and say goodnight, everybody.
Good night,
Bye.
everybody. Thank you, family.